Most of you own great digital amp processors for creating a crushing live guitar sound. Neural DSP, Helix, Kemper, XFX, and many more provide you with an amazing potential to sound full, rich, and cut through the live mix nicely. However, from my experience, it's getting quite difficult to dial a balanced guitar tone to translate live. I had to go myself through about a dozen of iterations of presets after playing live extensively, just in order to get a nicely balanced tone that stays consistent across the different venues. In this video, I will give you a few methods to get from this tone to this. Or from this tone to this. Hey, I'm Dr. Mike Trubetskov, the mad scientist of metal, and I'm here to bring valuable information on modern metal production, recording and mixing to you. Mate, like and subscribe to never miss it out. And let's go! This information is based on my experience both from doing live gigs as a guitarist and front of house PA as a live engineer, so that I know how to approach this issue from both ends. Instead of covering all of the basics, such as choosing your amp, cap impulse response, noise gate, tube screamer, etc., which you already know in depth, in this video I will just focus on the common problems that you may be encountering and simple solutions to fix this. And this is the pitch, and I've never done it before, so hear me out. If you are still struggling to get the tone that you want after going through this video, after processing it, and still not being satisfied with what you get, I offer individual consultations on your guitar tone, where we meet up, where we open your preset remotely via Zoom, and we spend the time to craft your unique tone to the direction that you exactly want it to be. So, if this is of interest, link would be in the description, and thank you so much. First thing first, let's get the boring stuff out of the way. And the boring stuff is obviously the gain staging. So, if your digital signal is too hot and it clips on the output, it will sound messy and your sound guy would not be able to properly work with it. Plus, you wouldn't be able yourself to dial the tone properly as you can't hear shit. Right, let's get the boring stuff out of the way first, and that is gain staging. And so if you crank up a preset like this one here, and you plug your modular into your audio interface. In my case, it is Universal Audio Apollo, and I'm on analog 2, and you just play a bit. And you can see that it is clipping, it goes into the red, and so that's a problem. And the simplest solution is to just turn your master output on the unit down, like this here. This is better, so I turn it down by 10 decibels and there is no more clipping occurring. However, I would recommend you to not just drop the master output because it is not the best way of gain staging. However, going in each block and gain staging it properly. So in this instance, the amp has a level output. By the way, I'm using XFX2. You can use anything, it's all the same. So we can drop the level of the amp here and maybe the level of the cab here as well, because I know that these cabs are kind of hot in XFX. And this is now a little bit too much, so the signal is a little bit too quiet. And this is good. This is decent. So our goal is to just never exceed 0, never go into the red, but not make it super quiet either. So somewhere in between, and this is not hard to achieve, but this is something to keep in mind because your sound guy would appreciate that. They will have more room for manipulation live, and you will be able as well to hear things properly and dial them in better if you are not going to the red. So this is just something simple to keep in mind and very important too. Now, the method that I suggest you to use is the following. Using an anchor point, a point of reference to a good tone is something that may save you hours of tweaking. Thing about digital amp modelers from my experience is that they can get quite complex and you can get really deep down in the rabbit hole of tweaking small parameters, subtly changing the tone and missing out the big picture. If your tone is too harsh or too boomy, you will still miss it out without a point of reference. Therefore, you can try using some modern plugins, for example Clairvoyant or Amp Knob, that sound good straight away so that you know what a reference is, what a balanced guitar tone is, and this tone would translate from studio to live. So here is the main method for this demonstration, and that is using a point of reference. In this instance, I just loaded up Clairvoyant from my good friend's Modern Metal Songwriter, and we're gonna play a riff with more or less default settings. I tweaked it a little bit to my taste to make it a bit fuller. We will record it and we will have it as a point of reference. Just making sure that we like what we got at first. Maybe it could be a bit low and heavier. That'll do for me. And we'll just record a fragment. Forgive my imperfect playing, please. And we'll use that as a tone reference. And that'll do for the moment. Now if we play back, we can hear and enjoy my very sloppy performance, but we have a point of reference for the tone, which we are going to use next. Let's start comparing our signal to the reference and seeing what's wrong with it and what can we do about it to fix it and bring it closer to the reference. Okay, and here is a very important demonstration which has been haunting me for years. So I've come up with a basic preset, stripped down a starting point for drop E tuning on my XFX, and it currently sounds like this. And on its own, in a nutshell, without comparing it to anything else, it kind of sounds cool. I like the low end, it's big and pretty massive. It has some piercing frequencies and I don't like the mids yet. There are mids, they're forward, but they kind of don't work. But in a nutshell, I wouldn't be bothered with this tone. However, if I play now and I compare it to the reference, see how much brighter the reference is? See how much less low end it has? And I'm not saying that it is ideal, we may find a trade-off, but this sounds really dull in comparison. And so straight away, instead of being like, oh, this XFX has cool features, it has, the presence and depth, and we can go into advanced parameters and tweak bias or maybe feedback or tone stack type. All these things, they will change the tone, but without addressing the actual problem first, we're doomed. So, with that in mind, understanding that, okay, our tone is boomy, let's fix that thing first. And now there will be specific ways to fix it based on your setup, based on the chain of effects that you have access to. And it doesn't matter. The way of fixing it doesn't matter. Problem number one that you may be encountering is your tone is too boomy or too scooped. If you want your guitar to cut through the live mix and sound balanced, your low end has to be in control. Moreover, your mids are everything. And although you may prefer a scooped sound, that's fine. That's literally the opposite of cutting through though. And therefore you need to carve a very fine balance between tight low end but not sounding thin, as well as nice and forward mid-range with being scooped to your taste and sitting in the character that you like, but still cutting through the mix the way it technically works. What matters is we have to fix it, and we'll do it right now. Okay, did it become better? Let's see. Also, a good idea is to try comparing your actual tone and the reference at similar volume. Right now, the reference is louder and that throws me off. So, we're getting better. The low end is tighter, it's more neutral now. I'm not saying that I love it yet, but that's okay. The purpose of this video is not to create a tone that you necessarily enjoy to death. The purpose is to solve the common problems, and the problem of the low end has been tightened. I may go back and kinda bring it back a little bit, otherwise it's a bit thin. Yeah, and that's okay now. Now, the mids. The mids have an annoying bump, which is very problematic, especially with low-tuned guitars. So I'd just go here, and I know that we're roughly looking at 600. With parametric EQs, you are just limited to what you can have. So this one here, I don't like. This is better to me. Problem is, you cut 3 decibels and it becomes abrasive. It becomes really obvious that the cut has occurred. So maybe I'd bring the mids back on the amp. Not too bad. And the second problem that you are likely to encounter is harshness. Your guitar may sound really harsh and piercing, and even though you may not notice that straight away, maybe on your rehearsal or at home, when amplified through the PI and running loudly, it becomes a big issue, and it is really fatiguing to your audience to stay in the place with some really harsh, crippling guitars. The harshness usually stems from a cab impulse response resonances or some other resonances that are present throughout your modular chain and carried through to the PA. And unfortunately, your live sound guy will have only a very limited time and very limited amount of EQ bands to fix that up. So it's much better to try taming that down on your end at first. And that will lead you to a more balanced tone for sure. Let's look into it. Let's find these resonances in our examples and let's tame them down with a parametric EQ. And now, the tone is harsh compared to the reference. I do find the reference tone a little bit harsh as well, unfortunately, for this purpose. So maybe I'd go and tweak that a little bit. But it's not that the reference tone is harsh in particular, it's that it has rich top end. It stands out, but it's not piercing in particular, because there is no specific frequency that resonates too much. And in our tone here, there is one, which I wanna take under control. So I'd go here and find it and tweak it. So taming 5K down by 2 decibels has helped quite a bit. But now, as a downside, the tone once again became duller. So we have to compensate for that. We could try using a different EQ, a parametric EQ, which you can fine-tune a bit better for this particular application. So we can find the frequency that we don't like by using a picking EQ. Let's find it. Narrow Q. And of course, it is a 4K. So let's cut that out. Not too much, though. There you go. Compare. And we got closer. Significantly closer. It's not the same. The characters are completely different. And I'm not sure that I love it. Maybe I would go in and find another top frequency that resonates. And that would be probably, let's see. 5.5 Cut that out a bit. Compensate by adding more treble on the amp. And I still don't like the low end, it's a bit boomy. Where are we? Somewhere here. And that's better. Reference. And now I like it more. I like this tone more than a reference. Still a bit boomy, so I would spend more time carving that low end better. And as you know, it takes time with the XFX, it takes time with any of your processors. Maybe I'd go for a different impulse response, that would be fair, but we were able to quickly transition from quite a crappy reference tone to a more balanced one by using the reference. Alright, and let's compare it with a preset that I've specifically dialed in for drop E beforehand as well. The preset and the new tone. And see, they're not that far apart, even though I didn't spend time on this demonstration rather than just doing it with you together. And that previous tone I spent time on and I was carefully matching it. So this method is helpful to dial in better tones faster. Hope that this helps, mate. To sum up, in this video I provided you with a method to dial in better live guitar tones. By making your guitar tone tight and balanced and mid-reach, you can expect your guitar to behave similarly in any venue and sound thick and full. If you are still struggling to get your guitar tone under control, hit me up for the individual consultation, and I really do hope that this helps. Cheers and rock on!